Now, let's just pick up on that interview that Nigel Farage did this morning. The Conservatives have claimed that it shows the UKIP leader makes up his policies as he goes along. Well, we're joined now by UKIP's Deputy Chairman, Suzanne Evans. Suzanne, welcome to the Daily Politics. On the figures, Nigel Farage has said that a cap on net migration is impossible because you can't control the numbers of people leaving the country. So how many people will UKIP let into Britain every year to work here?
A heck of a lot less than there are now.
How many?
Let's look at our policy. First of all, we are going to leave the European Union and control our borders, so there will be no more mass uncontrolled immigration under UKIP. Secondly, we're going to put a 5-year moratorium on letting any low-skilled minimum wage workers coming into Britain. So that will immediately cut the numbers of gross migration by 150,000.
Right, okay.
Then we're
so
I'm coming to the numbers, and then we're going to introduce an Australian-style points-based system which will decide through a migration control commission that we're going to set up every year what kind of highly skilled jobs we need to make Britain run as a prosperous economy. Now, this is what they do in Australia. Every year they set a different figure. Now, we're clearly not in government. We clearly haven't yet set up the Migration Control Commission, so we cannot do the strict economic forecasting, looking at the labour market,
Suzanne
talking
Evans?
to business.
What's
I'm coming
the
to that, Joe, but I think people have misunderstood our policy, so this is what I'm
mainly
getting
because
to.
of the conflict within your own party.
Well,
We've
actually,
had conflicting numbers from Stephen Wolfe, your immigration
I'm trying to explain, Joe,
you, and from Nigel Farage.
Can I just explain? So the Migration Control Commission every year will decide on what numbers and what skills we need for Britain. Now, looking at current forecasting, at the moment we have just under 21,000 highly skilled workers, i.e. the workers this country really needs, coming in from outside the European Union. We can assume, for argument's sake, that we could have the same number of highly skilled workers coming in from the EU, but of course we don't know because we don't count. This is where we get our figure of 50,000 from, but
so
that is only for highly skilled workers, and it is not a target, it is a limit for this year, potentially looking at current figures and the debates that we've had with business so far. When we're in government, when the Migration Control Commission is working properly, that number may very well change. But on anybody's analysis, the fact is migration at the moment is overwhelmingly too high.
Suzanne, let me
Over
come in here because
you've
been specific. So there would be a cap of 50 and a limit of 50,000 highly skilled workers coming into Britain every year.
No, not every year, on this year's current figures.
OK, so in subsequent years, if the Immigration Commission that you would set up comes back and says we need 80,000 to 100,000 highly skilled workers from outside Britain, that's fine with you?
That would be for the Migration Control Committee to decide. I mean, I very much doubt it would be that high. That would be very much doubt it would be that high. At the moment, for instance,
hang on a second. I've got to clarify this with you, Suzanne Evans, because you've said there would be a limit of 50,000 for this year. In subsequent years, do you accept that if the Immigration Commission says absolutely vital for Britain's economy that we have 100,000 highly skilled workers, and we'll come on to who they might be, highly skilled workers, you would accept that? We
will always take the judgment of our Migration Control Commission, but those numbers are
extremely high. So what if it goes to 150,000 in 5 years' time? Let's say the economy. Let's just say the economy, because what people want to know is that you have boasted, your party, of being straight-talking and honest with the electorate, different to the other parties. But you haven't been straight-talking on this issue of figures, because you are writing the manifesto, and yet we've heard from Nigel Farage and we've heard from Stephen Wolfe completely different figures over the last few weeks. Now, except you've just said for this year you would accept 50,000. In subsequent years you could accept 100,000 if that's what the Immigration Commission says.
We could accept 20,000.
And you'd accept 150,000. Let's say in 5 years the economy is booming. 150,000 highly skilled workers from EU countries, even if we're outside the EU, and let's say India and China. That would be fine with you? We
could accept 20,000. Australia's limit this year
is 100. So you do have a limit?
No, I'm saying we would accept the recommendation of the Migration Control Commission.
Which could be 150,000.
Who, unlike me, sitting here trying to answer questions in a studio studio with no particular experience of immigration will have the facts and figures to hand, and will be able to give us a strict answer based on facts, not just speculation in a TV studio.
Right, but you've made promises about immigration. You've made promises about bringing down the numbers
immigration,
of
and
highly...
we will.
Right, well, OK, so we don't yet know whether there will be a strict limit. You've said you'd like it to be around that number, but if the Immigration Commission recommends a much higher number, either you will agree with them or you won't.
No, Joe, I didn't say I'd like it to be that. I said on current figures, that is what we would anticipate.
But that's only 1 year.
That's very different from me saying, well, what I want, because it's not about me. It's not about what I want. It's not about even what UKIP wants. It's about what the country wants. It's about getting the right numbers and the right skills to benefit Britain. And the numbers that you're now throwing around
Hang on a second,
arbitrarily.
Suzanne. Let's come on to the right skills. You say highly skilled.
Yes.
Do you like Nigel Farage that plumbers, electricians and builders are skilled workers?
If we need plumbers, electricians and builders, then yes, they will be included in our highly skilled work visa category. So they will be allowed to apply to... I mean, anyone under the Australian points-based system can apply to Britain.
Absolutely.
Whether they're let in or not is, of course, a different matter. And again, it's about what we need.
Can I just put you... If there are builders, plumbers and electricians coming in, let's say 50,000, let's say in 2 years' time, the Immigration Commission says this country really needs 50,000 builders, plumbers, electricians, hairdressers to come into Britain for the economy. What are you going to say to all those voters, and particularly British building firms who've said they've been undercut by those workers? They thought you were going to stop them coming in.
Well, first of all, I think it's very unlikely that we'd need 50,000 plumbers in
But
Britain. I cannot imagine any scenario at all when that would actually happen.
There hadn't been demand during the 2000s for plumbers, builders, electricians.
Not for 50,000 of them. No, absolutely
no. There were a lot more.
And you know, what we're actually more desperately need is 20,000 nurses, 8,000 GPs, and 3,000 midwives, which we would fund and train up and put into our NHS.
Is there a shortage in the
construction industry?
Is there a shortage in the construction industry at the moment?
I really don't know. I'm not an expert on the construction industry.
There is a shortage in the construction industry, so actually they would be well within their limits, the Immigration Commission, to say, all right, let's have 30,000, for argument's sake. Let's have 30,000, less than your 50,000. What do you say to all those voters who I would think were going to be disappointed that UKIP aren't going to stop the sort of people who have undercut their wages, in their minds, undercut their wages, filled up the primary schools and taken places in hospitals because you promised you would do something about it?
I would say that what you're forgetting and what the British people need to remember is, one, that UKIP is the only party that is even beginning to put forward a programme that is a realistic programme to cut migration. And I would also say that that Migration Control Committee is going to be under a strict remit to reduce net migration. And that is the overall thing that we need to remember. We're not talking about a Migration Control Commission here that is going to up numbers. It will, within the parameters that we set it, have a strict remit to reduce immigration, which is what everybody in this country wants, what even the other parties are now saying they want under pressure from UKIP, but which only UKIP can deliver.
Even if the economy says otherwise. Just briefly about, do you think immigration is still Nigel Farage's strong suit for tonight's debate?
Yes, absolutely right, because as I've said, we are the only party that can actually control our borders. We're the only party that's saying we'll take back control of our borders from the European Union. We will put an extra 2,500 border control staff in to actually make sure we do the job. And not only that, we will actually start counting people in and out of the country, which the other parties can't be bothered to do. Let's be clear, there might be debate about limits, targets, whatever you want to call it. Well, certainly not targets, but let's be clear, UKIP is the only party that is putting before the electorate a workable, realistic proposal to dramatically reduce immigration.
Suzanne Evans, thank you.